guys. I couldn't get it to turn off. Happy Monday. Oh my gosh. I think I blinked and the weekend like went poof. Thanks, Druid. I hope I turned the volume up a little bit. I didn't confirm that. I hope that was good. Sometimes it's like blasting me and then I'm worried like nobody can hear it on your end. So anyway, fingers crossed. Okay. The weather is weird here right now. It's kind of overcast. I think they might be calling for rain. I don't know. My temperature says it's like 72, which is nice, right? Um, okay, come up a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, hopefully that's good. Yeah, it seems like my volume, my voice volume is weird. Nothing ever stays the same. All I do with this mic, I never touch it. I never change anything. I push it back and forth so that it's out of the way. Anyway, it's like 72 here, but I went out to get the mail and I walk back inside like just covered in like a thin sheet of sweat. Ugh, it's so humid. So I guess that's what's going on here in Baltimore. Anyway. So I have lots of miscellaneous things to show you guys today. And like, serendipity. Well, we'll get to that. I have two very small things to show you first. I just wanted to get out of the way. First of all, it's small, but it's not small. Remember the little couch? Ah, it has legs. Look at it. Look at the little legs. Ah! So this was a fantastic job, fantastic idea, and I think I did a fantastic job. A fantastic idea from you guys, and I apologize. I can't remember who it was that made this suggestion. If it was Betsy or Marianne, I can't remember. But I feel like it might have been Betsy. I think it was you. So anyway, what these are, golf tees. And I will pull one off just to show you. I hot glued them to a flathead like push pin, a thumbtack, and just a little dab of glue so it wasn't all goobery. And then because the base of the little couch is just cardboard, like it's just layers of cardboard that are hot glued together, I just have to stick it in there. Ah! Isn't it cute? I'm so excited. It's perfect. I decided, and they're a little bit small, a little twee. So I decided, because the couch is a little chunky, to put middle ones too, which I think furniture does that. So it's not like it's weird. It's very cute. I've currently, I've been using it at my desk. I haven't taken it to where little animals and such can sit on it, but I've been using it at my desk as a cell phone holder. So I might have to just make one for myself as a cell phone holder. Not like I don't have other cell phone holders, but I mean, come on. Who doesn't want a cute little couch as a cell phone holder? And I think, yeah, I have problems with my other cell phone holders. Like, they don't want to hold it upright. If you're watching reels and stuff, a lot of times they're recorded in like the upright position. So, I have to have my hands on it. I turn it to the side doesn't work. So, but isn't that just adorable? I'm so very pleased with it. Okay. So, and that was you guys. It would have been a flat couch just sitting on the ground and not being as cute if it wasn't for you guys. So, thank you. Okay. Thing number 2. This is going to be I want to call it an unboxing, an opening. So, the backstory. My husband and I, of course, share an Amazon account. Duh, for Prime. And this doesn't happen that often. But every now and then, I often will just, as I'm looking for something on Amazon, and a lot of times I don't make my purchase on Amazon. I use Amazon kind of as a research tool. Sometimes it's the only place you can buy certain things. Sometimes it's like they have the worst price. Sometimes they have the best price. So, it's kind of a crapshoot. But if I see something, that's fancy. Yes, it does need a matching armchair. And I'm thinking the armchair also can do a phone sitting straight up. I was already thinking last night about the armchair, overstuffed armchair. The patterns that I got the little couch from, there are several armchair patterns. And I adapted it so it's a little bit more sturdy. The woman that developed them had like kind of where you're just stuffing things. You're not putting like a piece of cardboard in there to keep it sturdy. So yeah, I'll be working on that soon. But anyway, so I will put things in the cart, my Amazon cart, to come back to later and look at. And, you know, like if I've done my research, it's a holding place, right? And if it's something that I'm like, yeah, I might make this purchase later, well, then I'll just move it to the save for later. Well, I wasn't fast enough. I was looking for one thing and I found another thing. So I put it in the cart. And all of a sudden last night, and this was like Saturday, and then so last night I'm checking my email and I'm like, what is this? My husband has ordered a whole bunch of stuff. And it's like stuff he needs, like socks and t-shirts and things. Well, it has gotten the thing that I had in the cart. And I know he saw it. He said he saw it and he said, "Oh, I just thought that, you know, you just put it in there waiting for, you know," and I'm like, oh, we've had this conversation. Anyway, long story short, this is what I end up with. This is supposed to be a king-sized piece of cotton batting. Now, it's in this, like, whatever they call that, you know, those vacuum bag things, I guess. So, first of all, I don't know if this is I don't know if this is from translation, like Chinese translation, but this is a new plantational grinding natural cotton quilt batting. That is a weird name. Plantational? That's weird. And also grinding, also weird. But anyway, I'm very curious. This cost me like, I think it was like $23. It might have been, or 26. I can't remember because when I looked at it, I was like, all right, how can cotton batting, you know, I usually order my cotton batting from, if I can't get it, like every now and then I run into like some batting at the thrift store or something. Yes, that's what we're going to find out, how thin this is. But for $23, I'm like, this is either, I don't know, jam-packed with chemicals, not really cotton, or I don't know. Also, the zipper bag is ripped open. So, you know, it's not worth it to me to send it back, however good or bad it is, because it was like $20 some. And I don't know that I necessarily want to support this company because I don't know. I don't know. I feel a little uncomfortable with the name of it. Plantational? I mean, it seems a little on the nose for the history of cotton. Well, I like to save these bags, but maybe not. All right. I don't know what this little sticker, I don't know if this is the weight. Let's see. Just use some scissors here. So, it's not like going the way you expect one of those mattresses to. It wasn't that. Well, it does not have a good hand. It feels... It smells kind of weird. It's not chemically. It's like... I don't even know how to describe that. You know, you've had some stale candy, like, in your backpack for a really long time. You're like, oh, I forgot about this candy. That's kind of what it smells like. Where's the end of it? Okay, here's the end of it. I don't know how to describe it. It feels like it's not scratchy. It's lumpy, maybe? It's not really lumpy either. I don't know how to describe it. Hmm. Well, okay. I don't think it's that thin, really. It's actually kind of dense. Uh, hmm. I'm gonna have to do a side by side with some regular batting, and uh, I don't think I have any right here within arm's reach. I think I have some down here, some scraps. I don't know. It smells weird. That's all. That's all I have. It's not. It's not lofty. I guess that's what I would say. It's very flat. It's like it's been needled to death because you kind of see the needle marks in it or some type of, and that's how even though cotton doesn't have barbs on it the way that like animal fiber does, like wool, they still use a needling process to compact, um, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be like just like normal cotton. I don't think it's anything weird. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about batting from China. I mean, ultimately, the batting that we buy, from the store, I don't know whether it's made in the USA or not. Uh, my guess is that this will probably beard badly because it's got this like almost pilled feeling. It feels pilled, when like I mean, think about like an old polyester sweatshirt, how it gets like a pilled feeling. That's what it feels like. But I think that's from the needle, whatever, and it's just not, it just doesn't have this like soft, silky hand to it the way that, say, I don't know, Hobbs batting. I'm trying to think of the other, what do I buy from Connecting Threads? I'm completely blanking on the brand. Okay. Well, I would say if you are in a real jam and you have to put some batting in a quilt and you are very, 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 like, have no money, you could have this in a day. And it's not the worst thing in the world, but I don't know that I necessarily trust this with my heirlooms. Um, I mean, it seems okay. I mean, the cotton's clean. It's not like it does have a weird smell, but it seems to be dissipating a bit. All right. Well, the verdict is still undecided, I guess. I will put it in something that maybe isn't really super important, and we'll see how it how it behaves. I guess I just would not use it on something that is heirloom quality. So, well, my husband's mistake, I guess, is I have some batting to work with. All right. Well, those are the two quick things I wanted to show you. I really need to get the batting scraps from my other brand of batting and to see what the difference is. I mean, now that I've kind of teased it out, I mean, it feels soft. It feels like cotton. I don't think it's like mixed fiber or anything. It's certainly cotton. Well, we'll see. We'll see more. Okay. So, what I have for you today, besides those little tidbits, I've been reading magazines, you guys, and I'd already told you about one thing that I plan to get to, and that is the Japanese quilting magazines. I picked up 3 while I was in Massachusetts. I think I mentioned that the New England Quilt Museum, they always have in the library, they have a little area where they call it like the yard sale, and it seemed like they had a lot of Quilters Newsletter magazines from like more recent ones, but they did have a little section of international magazines, and I quickly paged through the Japanese ones, and I was so excited because I found one has like it's chock full of Sunbonnet Sue, so of course I had to get that one. But this particular one, as I flipped through, I'm like, wait a minute, that's Barbara Brackman's name. Holy cow, that's a picture of Mary Kay Waldvogel. And then once I got it home, I looked more carefully, and we will definitely not get to this today, but maybe Thursday, depending. This is Joyce Gross. And, you know, we've read Joyce Gross's stuff before. She had her quilting newsletter. So it's a piece about her. And I guess, you know, again, like, obviously, I have to translate all this stuff. It's about California. So you can see it's got this little palm tree and it says California. So Joyce Gross, of course, yes, she was California. And then as I'm paging through, and I'm like, wait a minute, who's this guy? And the books that he wrote, well, that's Roger Kirchhoff. How young he looks. And then turning the page, and I'm like, oh my goodness, who's this? Oh my gosh, that's Julie Silber. It's a baby Julie Silber. So I can't remember, what year is this? 1996. So yeah, 30 years ago. And what? No. I have to translate this to see the date. Let's see, the month. You know what? It looks like it's probably May. It's probably May, I'm guessing, because they have this little calendar thing in all of their issues that you can pull out, and it's June and May that are the months. So I'm guessing that this was a May issue, and I'm guessing this published every 2 months. I really don't know. You know, I think I had mentioned maybe a couple streams ago that it's Naomi. Oh goodness, I'm blanking on her last name. Naomi Takamura. She is a pretty well known in Japanese quilting arts, but she's also partnered up with Teresa Jurye Wong on one of Teresa. Well, she and Teresa, I think, contributed to the book equally. But it was one of the more recent publications from Teresa's press, and it's primarily about Girls' Day, which is really interesting. But it's all things, you know, tiny, small, cute. So it's basically kawaii quilting. In fact, I think that's the name of the book, is kawaii quilting. But it comes from this concept of dolls and miniatures and all the things that are, you know, culturally significant in Japan and why they're culturally significant. And one of the connections is Girls' Day. So anyway, she wrote that book with Teresa. I want to say it was just within the past 2 years. And then she was actually, this was her magazine. I think she was the editor, if I remember correctly. In any event, I don't know when they stopped publishing, but you know, this is the way that many magazines have gone, unfortunately. So I'm very excited when I can find copies of these things. They're just so wonderful. So anyway, we'll hopefully get to Mary Kay and Barbara's stuff in here, and then we'll look at Joyce Gross and Roger Kirchhoff and Julie Silber another day. Very exciting. Now, the next thing, I said, you know, talk about just like serendipity. So a while back, there was here in Baltimore, there was a quilt contest announced, and it was at like a really bad time. And it was announced, and I kind of halfway paid attention to it, and I was like, I'll look at this later. I just don't have time right now. And then life intervened, and it totally, like, out of sight, out of mind. And the deadline was April. Well, anyway, it's a Baltimore. It's Baltimore City specifically, but you know, just Baltimore in general. And it's this quilt contest that is put on by the mayor's office. And of course, I don't live in the city, so this isn't something, you know, this is something that I saw on, you know, on Facebook, I think. And so it was not necessarily front and center to me constantly, because it's the city and I'm in the county. Anyway, excuses, right? Anyway, so I'd seen this and I kind of thought about it, and you know, I don't know. I saw it come up again, and it's ready to show now. In fact, I think it opened on Friday, the show. Well, set that over here. I was perusing Facebook, of course, because I'm picking up a few more issues of Ladies Circle Patchwork Quilts. And I'm not not trying to collect the whole range of them. I was really looking for the early ones. The first few issues, because I started with the bicentennial issue, which was issue number 4. And I was interested in seeing like what did 1, 2, and 3 look like. Anyway, I saw somebody somebody was selling a lot of them, and I think it was like 4 or 5 ladies circle patchwork quilts, and then one, the bicentennial magazine, I think it was McCall's. And although I have a copy of it, I was like, it's because it's this newsprinty kind of stuff, it gets tattered really easy. And I was like, could be worth it to have an extra copy of that. And then, of course, these. And so I think for this lot of 6 magazines, it was like they were charging like, I don't know, it was like 12 or $14. And I made an offer to knock it down a little bit, and they accepted. And ultimately, besides that bicentennial, what really caught my eye was Lady Circle, Maryland. Can you see? I mean, we have such an iconic looking flag that I'm not Marylander by birth, but I've lived here for so long that I can just catch that pattern of black, white, red, and yellow, like out of the corner of my eye, and know immediately Maryland flag. Like when you see it, you know it, right? So that caught my eye. I was like, oh my goodness, look at that Maryland flag quilt. And I was like, well, this magazine's 1981. It's a little bit out of the range. I was really only wanting to look at the ones from the 70s, but I thought it's Maryland, of course. So that sort of sweetened the deal. It was like, I'm willing to spend the money on these magazines because there's several of them that I want. Well, lo and behold, y'all, what we're going to look at today is the first time that the mayor's office had that this particular contest. So the one right now, I have to do math. I don't think I can do math. This is not an annual thing. At least I don't think. I don't know how many times that this quilt exhibit contest has happened. But it's so fascinating to me that like right now it's going on presently. It just opened on Friday. It's been on my social media, and I happened to pick up this magazine not realizing. So I'm like, serendipity, y'all. So we'll look at the first of this, and I'll also show you the little clip. Before we get to that, however, I have an article to read you. Now, if you were a quilt nerd fan. So if you were a quilt nerd, attending Mary Fons stream on Twitch back in the day, she stopped in, was it 2023? And it's when she went on hiatus, and in 2024 is when she started working on her doctorate. So as you know, Jill and I did kind of a spin-off for the audience, and I don't know. I hope the people that stuck around, I hope they enjoy us. We do something totally different than what Mary was really doing. But anyway, long story short, this particular one, I was just flipping through it. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. And especially because it's 1985. Again, it's getting a little bit further out of the time period that I'm interested in looking at these magazines. But you guys, I open it up and I see this quilt, and this quilt doesn't mean anything to me necessarily, but I was like, oh, that's an interesting quilt. And then I look at the facing page and I was like, that picture looks so familiar. Well, show you the picture. And I'm going to pull everything up for you to look at. But for those of you that hung out at Quilt Nerd, does anybody recognize this picture? Yes! Drew knew it right away. It's Mary Fons' aunt, her Aunt Valerie. And unfortunately, Valerie Fons passed away. And I think it might have been early 2023. I meant to look it up, and I got sidetracked and I forgot. But, as far as I know, she was still living in Iowa when she passed. And, but Valerie is known for this world record of kayaking. She did, I think it was multiple records. that she set, but this one specifically with the Mississippi was the first like and big one. So I thought we would read this. The article is written by Valerie. It's not by Marianne Fons. It's not by anybody else. It is by Valerie, and Valerie was not a quilter. So I thought we'll start with that one, and then we'll look at the Baltimore stuff. I mean, like, again, it's so funny. And I mean, I think the deeper you get into the quilting world, of course, you know, when you make friends with people and, you know, they've been published and they're out there, of course you run across things all the time. But I was just so surprised to see this. I hadn't, you know, I didn't know Valerie. You know, I'd heard Mary cared about her very much. You know, I think that, I don't know, I got the impression they were fairly close. And I know that she was really devastated when Valerie passed away. But, you know, it was one of those things, like, I certainly hadn't thought much about it beyond, you know, sharing some memories with Mary and listening to her talk about Valerie. So just to see this, I was like, oh my gosh, what, right? So let us explore. And I will read you her article because it's a good story. So again, this is the issue it came out of. It's November of 1985, Ladies Circle Patchwork Quilts. And, you know, this magazine is, I'm pleasantly surprised by it. You know, I think my mom had some later issues of this. She in fact, she might have had this one for all I know. I grabbed all of her Quilters newsletter magazines. I did not grab these. So I'm like, I probably should go back and get those when she's not looking. So this is what the front of it looks like. And then I'll leave this up while I read. So this is the quilt will be discussed, and we'll leave that up. But real quick, I'll zoom in here again so you can see Valerie in her, I mean, this is like an ocean kayak, I think. I don't know a lot about kayaking, but I think that's what this is. This is not a kayak that you just take out, you know, for a fun little sprint over the rapids. This is something that's like beefier and, you know, for I guess long-term or longer journeys, longer adventures. Okay, so this is the quilt. So let us read. The article is called Taming the Mississippi by Valerie Fons. In February 1984, I was preparing for a canoe race. This was a big one. With my partner, Verlin Kruger, we would attempt to paddle the entire 2,348-mile length of the Mississippi River for the world record. So I guess it was canoe. So I guess it's a canoe. But it seems like it's got a skirt, so it seems like to me it's like really more of I don't know. What is the difference between a kayak and a canoe? They are different. We'll keep going. So they're planning to paddle the length of the Mississippi River for the world record. The challenge took over my life. With only 3 months left before the start of the race, I reported conditions to my partner. I'm not ready yet, I panicked. The winter had frozen all canoeable waterways in central Iowa where I lived. My training had been reduced to jumping rope in the basement and trudging through snow to the mailbox with detailed strategy reports to our sponsors. I mean, this was a big deal. Like, this was world record stuff. Like, this wasn't just like, hey, let's try to do this thing. Like, she had sponsors, right? Papers were piled on my desk and maps spilled onto the floor, adding to my sense of uneasiness. Try to relax, my partner comforted. If you were ready now, I'd be nervous. I listened closely to his advice. He should know. Verlin is known as the king of canoeing and has raced more miles than any other paddler, but he still didn't understand. I walked next door to talk with my sister-in-law, Marianne Fons. So, of course, Valerie is Mary's father's sister. That would make sense since her last name is also Fons. Immediately, she had an answer. Let's make a quilt, she offered. I'm too busy now, I exclaimed. Don't take on another project, Verlin warned. We'll do it together. A quilt of the Mississippi River race. We can plan it tonight after the kids are in bed, she reasoned. Marianne Fons is very, very convincing. Promptly at 9 o'clock, Marianne came to my door with books of patterns, papers, and pencils. We had always wanted to make a quilt together, but had never gotten around to it. The week before, Marianne and her husband, John, had volunteered to be the land support crew for our canoe race. Now that we were working together, we shared a purpose. We need a Mississippi quilt, Marianne believed. A quilt to tell the story of the race. A quilt to tell the story of the river, I agreed. Our success in the canoe race would depend on our commitment to the finish. The commitment was built on motivation. The motivation grew from desire and intensive preparation. Every detail of the race was figured in advance. Like a colorful quilt, our race was a vision even in the planning stage. As I looked through the pages of the Quilt Pattern Dictionary, I saw blocks whose names and patterns could be associated with the different parts of our race. We decided to make a sampler quilt with 48 blocks. Each of us would piece 24 of them. I can't imagine being 3 months away from a 2,300-mile canoe race and like going, okay, I need to make half of a quilt. Like, I mean, I'm a quilter and I would be like, no way. I don't have time to think about that. We decided to make a sampler with 48 blocks. Each of us would piece 24 of them. Marianne offered to draft the patterns, and the next day she called Priscilla Miller at Concord Fabric for the materials. Within a week, a box full of colored prints and solids arrived in the mail. I began to sew. As I hand-stitched each block, I tried to visualize the race itself. My motivation grew. With a needle and thread in my hands and my mind attending to creation, I began to feel the strength and peace I needed. I knew that when the race started, I would be required to paddle like a machine. The womanly parts of me found expression in the making of the Mississippi quilt blocks. My part of the challenge was now under control. I finished 10 quilt blocks before the race started on April 27th. Marianne had intended to take the sewing along and piece as the race continued. She soon discovered that there was no time for anything except driving the support van, cooking food for the paddlers, and occasionally sleeping. On May 20th, Verlin and I finished the race at mile 0 on the Mississippi River. We paddled 23 days and nights to set the new world record for canoeing downstream on the river. Guinness Superlatives awarded us certification of our achievement. We had beaten the existing record by 12 days, so they got down the Mississippi 12 days faster than the previous record. When it was over, Marianne lay in the grass at Venice, Louisiana, and moaned. The births of my 3 children were nothing compared to this experience, she claimed. We needed to recuperate. Returning to Iowa, I began again to sew on the quilt. Now that the race was completed, I pieced my remaining blocks with the vivid knowledge of our success. Sewing the blocks helped conclude the experience for me. When all 48 of the blocks were done, Marianne and I set them in order, reminiscing about the race, and lived the endurance event over again in our minds. Marianne stitched a large muslin label on the back of the quilt listing the blocks. But the real story is in the top of the quilt, bursting from each meaningful square. Beginning in the upper left-hand corner is goose tracks. So, I guess it's this. This block came first because our main sponsor was Eddie Bauer, Expedition Outfitters, and their reputation is founded on goose down products. The next block is Crazy Loons. So I think this is upside down. I think this quilt is upside down. Although I'm wondering if maybe she didn't set them in this order that she's describing. Well, we'll see as we go. That's how we felt attempting a race on the mighty Mississippi. The only non-traditional block is 3 daughters, designed by my brother, John. So that John and Marianne could act as support crew for the race, their 3 daughters were boarded with loving grandparents. Heart's Desire is the 4th block. Verlin is a senior citizen, and I'm a woman. The record for racing the Mississippi was previously held by the British Royal Air Force. We were out to beat the best of the men and knew a commitment of determination was necessary. I mean, that's amazing. So this first record was set by the British Royal Air Force. And Valerie and her partner did it 12 days faster. That's wild. Obviously, they had to have had better equipment. That's the point. Indian Trail represents the historic Mississippi River waterway itself. Birds in Flight reminds us that the river is a flyway for migrating birds. So I think possibly these are just not in the order that she's describing them. They don't appear. We viewed the river as an ally, and we plan to work with the current every inch of the way. Brave World is a block associated with a special project. Before racing the Mississippi, we asked for pledges mile by mile to benefit guide dogs for the blind. Verlin and I knew the blessings of teamwork and wanted to contribute financial aid to team a blind person with a guide dog. Through a miracle of contributions, $8,880 toward the $10,000 goal has been deposited in the special Mississippi Guide Dog account in Winterset, Iowa. I wonder what happened with that. I'm assuming that a guide dog was financed with this. Crossing canoes is the image of our racing vehicles, 18 feet long and fast as an arrow. I don't know why in my head I just kept thinking it was a canoe. It was a kayak and not a canoe. But I mean, obviously, I was completely wrong. This is the canoe block. I know that much. Marianne insisted on including 8 hands around because the total number of support crew and racing team made 4 people and 8 hands. Bright Hopes was our dream and expressed the amazing idea that we might just win. Stepping Stones is a look at the river at its origin. The Mississippi River begins at Lake Itasca State Park in Minnesota as a small stream of water falling over rocks, beginning its long journey to the Gulf of Mexico. The bright Minnesota block represents the state in which the race began and the start of the race with the firing of 4 black powder muskets. At the headwaters, the river is a swamp patch with rivulets and channels braiding through high grasslands. The first night of the race, winter had one last fling at us, sending snow crystals, icing our canoe deck. By the time we arrived at Cass Lake the following morning, wild waves were threatening our progress. And Wild Waves, by the way, is another block. Okay. There's something funky going on. I'm like, please don't let me be losing my connection, but I think everything's okay. Okay. So Wild Waves is one of these blocks. Paddling with the river, we passed Wisconsin and Illinois. Those are also both blocks. The river changed. No longer a wilderness creek, it flowed like a highway. 29 locks and dams were ahead, best described by Brickwork, which I bet is this one right here. There were other obstacles. Tugs and barges cruised the river, and the ship block represents the traffic that stood in our way. I don't know what one would be the ship block. There's one that... Is there one that looks like a ship? Not sure. Iowa Star greeted us with gale force spring winds, so we included Windblown Square. Well, that's another quilt block. Our team faced a mixture of sunshine and shadow. Even with the difficult and dangerous route, the race was exciting and our resolve never wavered. So sunshine and shadow. I'm not sure which one that one would be. I mean, often sunshine and shadow is a setting for a log cabin, of course, but I guess there must be a block named that too. So I'm not sure about that one either. Okay. Even with the difficult and dangerous route, the race was exciting and our resolve never wavered. Corn and beans weren't actually on the menu, but this block stands for the large quantities of excellent food that kept our energy up. A mariner's compass was needed to navigate the river as it grew. Mariner's compass. Where is it? Why am I not seeing it? Here it is. That's Mariner's compass. And I think this might be corn and beans. I think it's that one. Each evening, twilight turned the sky to blues and purple. Twilight is a block. Yeah, Jewett, I think so. Yeah. Okay. That's how you sew a number quilt. Yeah. Um, so in the article, she does reference starting in the, um, yeah, she says beginning in the upper left corner, but like, that's this. I'm pretty certain. So, and I think this could be three daughters because you see there's three hearts there and it's like three triangles. I'm not sure. I would really love to talk to Marianne or Mary about this. And I mean, just a matter of getting time with them. um, they're both very busy ladies. Okay. So, each evening, twilight turned the sky to blues and purple. So, whatever twilight is. When the clouds were absent, the Big Dipper appeared. So, Big Dipper is also a block. The headlight of our boat is shown in Nocturne. So, Nocturne, I bet that's this. Yeah, I think she's definitely going in this direction. So, this must be Nocturne. The beacon of the navigation lights guided us down the river. I don't know if that's this. We looked to another star for guidance. So that must be this. Our strategy was to remain in our canoe and paddle 24 hours a day to take advantage of the current and keep the canoe moving. We paddled night and noon. I don't know if that's this, maybe. So many of these, I really and truly don't know. Yeah. I agree with you, Druid. I think right away, I think that they and this happens a lot, that quilts get printed upside down because I mean, without something really specifically directional, it's definitely hard. So, okay. Um, we passed the state of Missouri. I assume that's this. I'm sorry. We passed the state of Missouri puzzle and arrived at St. Louis Star. Is this the St. Louis Star? I guess. On the 14th day, meeting the press under the famous arch. After St. Louis, the river became wider and even more swift. The canoe turned into a Tippecanoe. I guess that's this. I don't know. And we attached pontoons to our craft for increased stability. Kentucky Chain and Arkansas Traveler, I assume that's these two, represent the two southern states we paddled by. Storm signals were heard, I assume that's this, were heard on our radios, and lightning took over the sky as we canoed past Tennessee. And to me, I know this block is something different, not Tennessee, but you know, every block's got a dozen names, so. I keep losing my spot. One night, even the barges halted and tied to trees along the river to avoid the severe storm. Railroad crossings, which I'm almost 99% sure is that, are landmarks on the Great River, and we canoed under every one of them. We were traveling so fast, I shouted, "Catch me if you can," which is this, to the support crew. Far ahead of even our own best projections for speed, we were paddling over 100 miles a day. Our best day was 162.4 miles in 24 hours. That's amazing. And now they had to sleep. I mean, they definitely had to sleep. But it sounds like they didn't sleep a lot. On the 18th day, we passed alongside the states of Mississippi and Louisiana. Some of these two, I suppose. Fore and aft, the river was now a freeway of traffic. From Baton Rouge on down, ocean liners joined the tugs and barges to crowd the river. Finally, 3 cheers. 95 miles past New Orleans, we reached mile 0 after 23 days of paddling. The race was finished. The last 4 blocks in the quilt conclude our story. The fish block represented our Christian team. So this is definitely the fish block. You can see the fish. Celebrating at the World's Fair, a reception. So this must have been a World's Fair that year. Maybe. Celebrating at the World's Fair, a reception was given in our honor. Friendship flower, which I know that is what that block is called, bloomed for our team with each other and the many wonderful people we met along the river. At the finish, we claimed a golden memory of the event. So that must be what this is. Our story is one of trial and effort, challenge and victory. The Mississippi quilt tells this story in bright colors and a variety of patterns. Now that the quilt is finished, I take it with me to hang wherever I give my slide program on the Mississippi River Race. The quilt always receives warm response from the audiences, most of whom are not quilters. The Mississippi quilt shares our great adventure with others and is a special way for me to remember our world record race. The quilt was made by two women to commemorate a race that required a reach beyond ourselves. We could not have succeeded without the commitment of true heart, of which this quilt is an enduring symbol. So I thought that was so lovely. Oh my goodness. That's fabulous. So I guess, let's see. Let's try to do this way. All right, where does she start with? Okay, so goose tracks. So those do look like goose feet. So I think that's correct. Crazy loons is this. The only non-traditional block, 3 daughters, is this. So crazy loons, 3 daughters. This makes sense that this would be Hannah, Mary, and Rebecca, who are Marianne's 3 daughters. And it's got all these little hearts. It's very cute. Let's see. The next one is Heart's Desire, right? It's the 4th block. Indian Trail. And I think that's this. It's a little of a swastika-y kind of shape, but it's these half square triangles that kind of go off in these 4 directions. That is Indian Trail. Birds in Flight. Yep. Brave World. That's this. And then, yep, I already confirmed Cross Canoes. We know that. 8 Hands Around. Is that the next one? Yeah, 8 Hands Around. Bright Hopes. Stepping Stones. That one makes sense. And so this must be the Minnesota block. Swamp Patch. Snow Crystals. Okay, that one makes sense. Wild Waves. Yep, I would say that definitely looks like Wild Waves. And then, let's see, Wisconsin and Illinois. Yep. Brickwork. Yep, I recognize that one. Now, is this the boat one? This must be the ship block then. Oh, okay, I see. Like, I guess this is the water, and this is the bottom, and these are the sails, I guess. Windblown. Oh, I'm sorry. Iowa Star. The Windblown Square. And I think I've heard of that one. So Sunshine and Shadow. Okay, I could see that makes sense. Corn and Beans, as I thought. And then this is the Mariner's Compass. And then, my terrible reflection here. So Twilight. Big Dipper. Nocturne. And so this is interesting one. It's hard to see, but they're like curved. They're sort of like the single drunkard's path blocks that are set around this plus sign with this single block in the center, one patch in the center. Another star. I'm sorry, no, this is the beacon, and then another star. And then night and noon. Missouri. The Missouri block. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Missouri Puzzle. My bad. Missouri Puzzle. And I can't tell with this one because of the reflection. And it's kind of a cruddy picture anyway. I can't tell how much of this is like, I think this is like a border print. I don't think that's pieced. I think that's a print. Maybe. I can't tell. It's difficult. And then St. Louis Star. And then Tippecanoe. Kentucky Chain. Yeah. Okay. Arkansas Traveler. That one. Storm Signals. And I think now we're getting to the point where I was confirming that I think that we were going in the right direction. So let's see, Storm Signals, Tennessee. So Tennessee, Railroad Crossing. Yep. Catch Me If You Can. And that one's kind of interesting. That's those arrows that are going in the directions. I know that one's called something different as well. So Mississippi and Louisiana. Baton Rouge. Three Cheers. Oh no, wait a minute. I'm off kilter here. Baton Rouge. Let's see. No. Roll it back. Mississippi, Louisiana, fore and aft. Then Baton Rouge. Three Cheers. And then Fish. World's Fair, Friendship Flower, and Golden Memory. Oh, and that looks like it's a butterfly in the center. How sweet. Or a little flower, maybe? It's a butterfly. Ha! How wonderful. I love that. So very sweet. So I guess I'll have to work on talking to Marianne or Mary or both of them to find out. I mean, I really suspect Mary probably doesn't remember much. Let's see. 85. Let me see. Let me do some math here. Mary was in elementary school. I was 12. So I think Mary's about 4 years younger than me, 5 years younger than me, I think. Yeah. So she was little. Her older sister was closer to my age. So they probably don't have a lot of memory of this if they were with their grandparents. So I'll try to tap Marianne for this. I know she was traveling, and I haven't seen her in a while. I'm working on a project with her, which I wanted to announce today, but will not. I will announce it on Thursday. It's a cool thing. You might want to get involved. It is a sort of a community art project kind of thing, an activism sort of thing. So, okay. So that was the Fons story, Valerie Fons. Close that one. And let's see, we'll get to this one. So, I won't spend a whole lot of time again talking about this one other than here's the magazine. So Baltimore Quilt's a cover story is what this article is called. And I'm just going to start reading it to you and not trying to, the butterfly is the directional piece. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. Okay. So, the grand prize winner of the contest is in true quilt tradition, depicting in geometric blocks of the endless rows of marble steps. It was made by a group of 6 women from Pasadena, Maryland, and there is no pattern. And that is what you're looking at here. This was the grand prize winner of the 1981. Do they have a title for it? I don't know. Did they have a title for this? I guess we'll get to it if they did. But this was the winner that year, 1981. This is the first year. And if you don't know much about Maryland or much about Baltimore, a really big deal in Baltimore are the row houses in the city. They're all over the place. There are ones that are really beautiful, very fine, old, elegant, $1 million properties. And then there are the row houses that are on the wrong side of town that are in disrepair, And it's interesting how Baltimore is an interesting city because it is not divided necessarily into like, oh, this is the bad side, this is the okay side, this is you can literally go from like block to block, and one block will be not great. And then the next block is like totally fine, normal. And I mean, as an example, I came on the train a couple weeks ago from Massachusetts, and I was going to catch a bus, and I ended up just like, oh, it was so hot. I was like, I'm just going to get an Uber, but I ended up walking down the street in the wrong direction for the bus stop. I just kind of disoriented myself. And instead of, walking one block to where it was kind of, like restaurants and stuff that are in, the art college and stuff that's, you know, near the train station, I walked in the wrong direction into what's basically kind of a drug den, and what's getting kind of close to what's known as the block, which is where all of the strip joints are. I wasn't exactly there, but I was close, and I was like, I'm in the wrong direction. But it's literally like one block to one block can be vastly different. And that's just one of the quirks of Baltimore. But people that own or live in a row house, they don't necessarily have to own it. They might rent it, but there is this sense of pride about your steps because your front steps are marble. And in the traditional, Baltimore row house, the bottom part has this stuff called formstone, which is like it's not real stone. It's a pretend product that's supposed to look like stone. And then they have these beautiful marble steps, which are really marble. And I would say back in the 50s and 60s, before there was a lot of suburban flight, as has happened in big cities, in the 20th century, it was a really big deal. People of, all generations, all races, took great pride in their front steps, and they would use, like, I don't know, it was like a big deal. Like Saturday mornings, you went out and you scoured your steps. And so that's what this is representing. And I think it's a really cool, and I don't know if this is like a traditional pattern. I mean, it's giving me tumbling blocks vibes, but it's clearly their steps. So very cool. I wish this was in color. I would love to know what the colors are. Okay. Obviously we have a little crab. Okay. In October of 1980, the word went out that the mayor of Baltimore was planning a quilt contest with much help from Margaret Dean Dais, City Hall curator. By the time of judging in June of 1981, some 120 entries had been received. Only 120 entries. I can only imagine how many were at the current one. They ranged from the sublime to the strictly humorous. Some are true quilts in true quilting techniques. Others incorporate photo processes, batiking, and many colorful ways of depicting the meaning of Baltimore to the person or people who made the quilt. Many are group quilts, made with the obvious enthusiasm of several friends adding ideas and taking turns inventing more symbols and meanings. Several were made by lone quilters, working far into the night to complete his or her masterpiece. This particular piece is by Doris Raby, or is Rabey. I know I've heard her name before. So Doris Raby, I guess, of the Designing Women. Like this is 1981, so I guess Designing Women wasn't a show yet. So ignore that wink. So she is of the Designing Women chapter of NQA, which is the National Quilters Alliance, I think. Intended to incorporate her marvelous crab into a quilt for the contest, but turned it instead into a wall hanging which depicts one of our favorite facets of Maryland, the blue crab. So let's see. Okay, so we left off lone quilters. Some are even first efforts, remarkable for their inventiveness. The jurists have different backgrounds, and so the quilts were judged for artistry and originality, as well as technique and the other criteria of a quilt show. Dina Katzenberg, you guys should recognize her name because we've looked at some of her work on on understanding and studying Baltimore album quilts. She was she's the curator of textiles for the Baltimore Museum of Art. Fred Calland, a quilter, is senior executive producer of classical music programming for National Public Radio in DC. And Georgia Bonesteel is a well-known teacher and lecturer on quilting with a program on PBS. So these were the judges. Tina Katzenberg, Fred Calland, and Georgia Bonesteel. Wow, that's amazing. There were 4 large money prizes. This year there were 2. And then ribbons in each of the several categories: architecture, sports, etc. The show was opened to the public with a grand party on July 19th at City Hall. A large banner over the door proclaimed the words, "Baltimore Quilts, a cover story." That's cute. The show will travel over the state for 9 months, starting in September, so you still have a chance to see the winners. Eventually, the top winners will come back to City Hall as part of a permanent collection. So I don't know like really what all happened with this. This one is really interesting to me because this was made by women literally a block away from me. um it says this is the second place winner in architecture. Embroidered blocks with bricks pieced in shades of red is one of our special choices. Um 18 quilters from Glendon, Maryland produced this beauty. So what's really interesting to me is Glendon, Maryland is like, I live on the wrong side of the tracks from Glendon. Literally, like the train tracks separate the road I live on from Glendon proper. And I think I probably talked about Glendon. They're Victorian homes. My house is actually older than Glendon, although it doesn't hold a candle to the richness and finery over there in Glendon. Beautiful, beautiful Victorian homes. And it was a destination for the city's elite to come up into the county where it was cooler during the summer. It's was always and still is very shady, big old trees. I mean, it was originally like a kind of a camp. They came up and it was like literally camp style, and then they started building the big houses during the Victorian era. So it's really interesting that they have this very specific historic aspect of Glendon, yet the ladies, I mean, they did Baltimore. And I mean, I think that was the point. Like, this is by Baltimore City's mayor, so it wouldn't have made sense for them to quilt something that was Baltimore County, I guess, necessarily. So what you see here are some of the grand houses, and I don't know specifically what these are, but this is what the row houses look like. It's basically, think of this as a little pencil drawing or a little pen drawing. You can see the steps that go up. They're not really porches. They're steps that kind of go up to a stoop, and that's what they are. Sometimes it's not this many steps. Sometimes it's literally like 2 steps into their front door. But this is essentially what row houses look like. And then, these are other buildings. I'm sure that they were specific about which buildings these are, but I don't know what they are. I'm not recognizing them. This I think is probably a particular area of Baltimore, I think. Although this is interesting. These houses right here look like they're not, like, I'm assuming this is rubble. And that's interesting to me that, you know, one of the big problems with row houses in Baltimore is just like you can go from block to block and experience like extreme poverty to, very, very well off, you know, you can also within a row of row houses see like the ones on the ends maybe are well kept, obviously inhabited, but you go to the middle, there might be one that's burned out or in like very bad condition. And I think that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing a shuttered house, and then 2 that are just crumbling. And I mean, this is one of the problems. This has been a long time problem in Baltimore. I mean, this is obviously nothing new, but it's still ongoing today as a problem. And when these houses in the middle become problematic, whether they catch on fire, um, you've got homeless people or people going in and squatting, using them as like trap houses. That's, where you do drugs. um, you know, having a situation like that right in the middle of a row of houses, it's impacting the other houses. Obviously, a fire would be absolutely devastating, and it is. Can affect all of the houses in a row. Something like this, where you've got houses that are boarded up and possibly, squatters or, drug users going in and out. You've just obviously got criminal elements, but you've also got things like, bugs and rats and things that are coming too. And they also can impact the houses. So this is really interesting to me that, like, this is 1981, right? So this would have been made in like between 1980 and 1981. And they're depicting this. Very, very interesting. And then this is an area of Baltimore that's like right on the harbor. And that's what this is. You can see, this is down by the piers. You can see that this is, we've got a tugboat. And these, I think, are like, I don't know what they call them. They're like big, huge iron, like toggle shaped things that lash a boat to. So I think that might be what is being depicted here. But yeah, if you've never been to Baltimore, like downtown Baltimore, it is a little weird that you could, like, you walk right by the harbor. There is no fencing. There is nothing that keeps you from like stepping right off of this sidewalk right into the harbor. And in fact, somebody was actually, I don't think they were rescued. I think they did pass away. But somebody fell in recently. It was just last week, and they search and rescue, not really search, but rescue had to come and pull them out and take them to the hospital to shock trauma. So I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think they did pass away. But it's so interesting to me that, like, there's these aspects of Baltimore that we all just take for granted, but seeing them through the eyes of, like, this national magazine, it makes me think of, like, wow, what the city looks like to other people. Anyway, I digress. I love this brickwork though. And I, again, I wish I could see it in color because I bet it's really cool looking. Um, yeah. So that's the Glendon Quilters, and it doesn't give a name. 18 quilters. They must have been a guild or a group that met regularly. I would love to know more about it because, my gosh, if I lived here in 1981 and I found out, oh my gosh, there's 18 quilters over in Glendon, I would be walking down the street knocking on doors like, who are the quilters? Show yourselves. I want a quilt. Okay, so these are two more quilts. These are obviously the ships that are, you can see at least one of them, I think. Let's see. Two ships, the Constellation, still on view in the newly rebuilt harbor area of Baltimore. So that's this top one, I think. And I think the Constellation is still there. And let's see. Newly built harbor area of Baltimore and a commercial schooner, the City of Baltimore from 1884, are depicted by Susan Brown of Baltimore. There were several lovely quilts with ship designs to celebrate the maritime past and present of this great seaport. So yeah, you can go down to the harbor, and there are multiple original. I think the Constellation. I'm sorry, the Constellation is the, like, old original boat that's down there. But then they have one that is like a recreation. And they use that as a pirate boat, and like you can go take pirate tours. so much tomfoolery down in Baltimore. All good though. It's all good. And the Mariner's compasses are a really nice touch here. And then this one, one of our ball teams, Virginia Chanot of Conowingo, Maryland, which is north, pretty close to the Delaware and Pennsylvania lines. I can't remember. I think it's actually like kind of right on the Delaware line. So it says she must have had a lot of chuckles as she worked on this first place winner for sports. In case this baseballless year made you forget, that's the Baltimore Orioles logo in the center. And I don't know what that means. In case this baseballless year. What was happening in 1981 with baseball? Was there some kind of strike or something? I don't know. I think it's entirely possible because, I mean, a baseball-less year. But yes, so you see the Oriole, the Baltimore Oriole. And then it looks like everything else around it is, let's see, hot dogs. I'm not sure what that is. That must be some kind of food. peanuts, I think, a ball glove and a ball. And then these look like they're just flowers of some sort. Um, but so cute. I mean, that's exactly what the Baltimore Oriole, the mascot, when he's in the costume, looks just like that. He's got this like big beak with like a, kind of a smirky smile. But yeah, I love it. And so she did, I guess it's kind of a sort of a Delectable Mountains kind of like deal here. I'm sure it's this setting and design is probably something different, but it gives me those Delectable Mountains vibes. And then this amazing border. Another one I wish I could see in color. I'm assuming it's a lot of black and orange, given that those are the Orioles colors. Druid's got some intel. Okay. So, 1981 Baltimore Orioles season was defined by a historic 50-day mid-season players' strike that erased nearly a third of the year. Managing a 59-46 record, the team missed the postseason under a controversial split-season format, though the labor dispute did allow future Hall of Famer Cal Ripken Jr. to make his MLB debut. And it's funny because this is 1981. So in 6 years' time, so if 81, this weird split season situation, if 81 was the year that Cal Ripken made his MLB debut, 6 years later, I was in 8th grade, and my pre-algebra teacher had a thing for Mr. Young Cal Ripken Jr. She had pictures of Cal Ripken all over our room. So funny. That's how I knew who he was. Like I lived in Virginia. Like, you know, we weren't paying much attention. Okay, so this is the first place winner. And let's see, first prize winner and winner of first prize or first place for culture and heritage drew gasps and wows and all sorts of admiring remarks from the large audience at the opening party. It was made by the Summerhill Quilters, a group of 13 from Phoenix, Maryland. And Phoenix is northeast of me, kind of due northwest, kind of Baltimore City. So they're in Harford County, where also I think Conowingo is. Although, Phoenix is in Harford County, definitely. Conowingo actually might be in Cecil County, but y'all probably don't care about that. Okay, so some of the things that I've got another, hard to see because of glare, but it's a diploma. Probably referencing, we've got numerous colleges here. This is no doubt the Preakness. So you've got the sunbonnet, black-eyed Susan, and the horse. I'm sure that's Preakness. This must be downtown Baltimore. We've got crabs and seafood. Watchtower. The hot air balloons are not so much of a thing now. They used to launch them. It's not far from me where they launched them, but I don't know that they've done it in quite a while. And I'm not really sure what happened with that. This looks like just some music stuff. We've got lots of musical venues here in Baltimore. No doubt the B&O Railroad. We've got the B&O Railroad Museum. We've got outside of the city, we've got the oldest train station in the U.S. This, of course, would be Fort McHenry right here, Star Spangled Banner. This probably the Constellation or something. I don't know. What is that? I'm not exactly sure what this is. It's like a power plant, but I don't know. We did have a power plant down in the city. It is now like a Hard Rock Cafe, Power Plant Live. It's like an entertainment venue, but maybe that's what that is. Baltimore Zoo, which is very much overshadowed by the National Zoo. I can't quite tell what this is either. Up here at the top, we have I'm going to guess this is probably the State House in Annapolis, perhaps. And then, of course, we've got sports. We've got the Orioles. We've got lacrosse. Ugh. Football and lacrosse. That's all the state knows. And then occasionally baseball. um, I think this must be a hockey stick. The Capitals, it's technically the Washington Capitals. However, in 81, they actually played in Maryland. Um, I'm trying to think. I think it's where they play now is actually in Washington, D.C. And then this is a caduceus. I know it's hard to see here. It's hard to see in the picture too, but I can see it a little bit better. But you know, the symbol of a doctor, you know, it's the wings and then it's got the snakes wrapped around the staff. That's what that is. And I think what that means is this is Johns Hopkins. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the quilting in this is really interesting. And then this is the shape of the city. That's quite interesting. So, and I can't really tell what is quilted in here, all of it, but it's pretty cool. Oh, there's words. I think this says Baltimore. It looks like it says Baltimore and then this way and Baltimore this way because you can see the OR, like the MOR here, and then BALTI. Maybe it just stops there. Baltimore, maybe. Hard to tell because where it gets dark here. Very interesting. Okay. And I think that's all of the text about this. So moving on, this was Mimi Dietrich. If you know who she is a contemporary quilter. She teaches a lot of simplified Baltimore applique techniques. And this was the quilt that she submitted to that 1981 contest. At this point, I think Mimi had been quilting for a little bit. She was in 1970. I want to say it was like 73 or 76. It was early to mid 70s. She and her husband were the first in the first graduating class out of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where I did my master's work. So she was, you know, she graduated from college, and then I'm not sure what she did professionally after that, but that's around the time I've talked to her and she told me she was learning applique from a quote unquote very old lady. And it was around that time. And then so by 81, this was her creation. And I love it. I think it is so fabulous. It looks so very different than the work she does today. But no less delightful. I think it's wonderful. And sadly, I don't think she won anything for it, at least to my knowledge, but I think it's a very, very cool quilt. And then this is today, the current show. I unfortunately, here's the challenge. I missed its opening on, I think it was Friday, the 6th, right? The 6th was Friday. Unfortunately, current space where this is being shown, is not a gallery that's open all the time. They're only open on Saturdays. And I looked at the calendar and I went, well, I can just go next Saturday. No, I can't. Well, I'll just go next Saturday. Oh, no, I can't. I've literally got something going every single Saturday. Through, I think I can get down there right before the closing. So, Saturday was the 6th. Okay, well, that makes sense. That it opened on a Saturday. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get down there before it closes. You know, fingers crossed. I would be very sad to have missed this because I wanted to participate in it. That had been my like absolute original plan, and then just, you know, everything went to hell. But couple of things in here that I just think are so fabulous. You know, we've got things that are recognizable. Frederick Douglass, very important you know, person in the history of Baltimore and Maryland. Fort McHenry, you just when you know what that is, you know exactly right away when you see it. It's it's a fortress right there in the city, southern part of the city. Here's a horse. We know that's got to be Preakness. The Ravens. So in 1981, we did not have a football team. Well, I take that back. The Colts might have still been here in 1981. I'm not sure. I don't know what year they left. But in 1996, yes, 1996, I believe, is when we got the Ravens. They were originally the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts went from Baltimore to Indiana, and then they came back. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. No, it's not the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts went from Baltimore to Indiana, and then Cleveland. This was the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns came to Maryland as the Ravens. The little bit I know about sports, I can sometimes get it straight. So we had the Colts for many years. Johnny Unitas. I mean, anybody out there is a sports fan. You might know these names. And then they left Baltimore, and then again in the 90s we got a football team back, and it was the Cleveland Browns. There was I actually did training in Cleveland. I was training for a job, and I was in Cleveland quite a bit, and needless to say, those of us from Baltimore had to constantly say, we're not from Baltimore, we just live there, because there was a lot of rivalry. People didn't like us. Anyway, so let's see a couple other things down here. It looks like this looks like a Maryland postage stamp or something. This looks like one of the teams. I'm not sure, hard to tell. Here we have a crab claw. I like that. We have Mr. Bo from Natty Bo, National Bohemian Beer, which was originally brewed here. It no longer is, but he remains an icon here in Baltimore. This is the city, as I mentioned earlier. Recognize that shape. An Oriole for Baltimore Orioles. Here we've got a row house with the steps. This looks like a raven, yes. Baltimore Raven, but there's other things in here. Yeah, some things without being able to see them in person, it's hard to tell. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This right here, you might be going, what is that purple blob? That is Mr. Trash Wheel. And he is among many other icons here in Baltimore. Mr. Trash Wheel has his own Instagram account. You can go check him out. But what he is a contraption that it paddles the harbor, and it cleans the harbor, and it's like a little conveyor belt in his mouth, and he literally has big googly eyes. The side of him almost looks like a snail shell, sort of, but it's this conveyor belt that's pulling water in, and it will grab any kind of trash and debris. Anything that's wildlife is safe. It doesn't, because it's not harmful. It's just basically like a conveyor belt that's capturing stuff, and anything that's alive can get free. So there have been environmental and like water, I don't know what you call them, like environmental protection stuff for water, that have studied Mr. Trash Wheel. And because he does a very effective job of cleaning, but he does not cause any damage to wildlife or like the waterway itself. So thank you, Druid. But Mr. Trash Wheel and he was named by there was a contest back when they first released him into the harbor. He's quite the icon. So yeah, between the Ravens, Edgar Allan and Poe are the three Raven mascots. And there were actual ravens, like the bird. And they were named Edgar Allan and Poe. And then you have the Orioles bird, and then you have Mr. Trash Wheel and the Natty Bo guy. We've got some real icons around here, and I'm sure Frederick Douglass is rolling his eyes in his grave. But Baltimore is a quirky place, and that's the kind of stuff that we see around here, and that we're known for, and that we love. The rest of these pieces, it's hard to tell what they are, and I suspect some of these are close-ups of just a piece of a quilt, so it might be difficult to sort of decipher what they are. But Brandon Scott is the present mayor of Baltimore City. So this is his exhibit, homage to Baltimore, absolutely the same as Willie Don Schaefer, or William Don Schaefer. He used to be called Willie Don, but he was Schaefer was the mayor in 1981, where this started. So I would really love to know more about, and I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research when I have time, to find out more about what the deal with this original version of this quilt contest was, because I mean, was it something that came out of the mayor's office? Like, was somebody in the mayor's office say, hey, let's do this? Was it this curator? Was it her idea, or was she like, just one of the people that was highly influential in the project? I don't know. Quite interesting. But as I said, it's at this place called Current Space, which I don't know. I've never been there before. That's I don't know if it's a gallery that is new to me. One thing I can tell you is that Mimi Dietrich this year is one of the judges and jurors. So I hope to get a chance to talk to her. I'll have to go to the next my next Baltimore Applique Society meeting and catch up with her. So yep. So that is what we have. Go back here. Okay, so look at the time. Do we have time? I think we might have time to look at one thing. We'll look at one thing out of this magazine, and then I'll move on and read some from Patchwork. So I showed you the 3 magazines, and this is the one that has all of these many people that I either know personally or know and admire, admire who they are. Again, I don't know the year on this, but I think it's got to be, did I say 1996? That's right. This is 1996. These magazines are so delightful. I keep flipping through them just to look at things quickly, and then realize, like, oh my gosh, look at these adorable patterns in here. So, but this is the copy of, this is the front of the magazine. So this is what we will look at. And I'll put that up in front of you. Oh, thanks. I didn't mean to do that. All right, where is it? Right here. Okay. Put my book away so that I'm not pushing my keyboard. Okay, so this is what we're going to read. And I did do Google Lens translation, but I'll read that from my phone so that you guys can just look at this lovely piece. What I found is interesting is so magazines in Japan, and books, printed materials, they go the wrong way from what we're used to. The front of the magazine opens on the left hand side versus the right hand side, the way we're used to magazines, and so it's almost like it's from the back of the magazine forward. And then the text is read, if I remember correctly, from right to left. In this case, it's also turned sideways. And I've noticed that throughout the magazine that there are some little columns that are just turned sideways. And, I guess I would think if I was looking at an American magazine and, there's a bunch of columns are turned sideways, I would be like, what are they doing? But I think this seems to be like something that just kind of was normal. I guess I've seen this multiple times in this particular magazine. So I guess it's something that's normal and to be expected. Um, so let me, I gotta find the image here. Okay. So, oh geez, let me lock my screen too, so that because yeah, bear with me, you guys. I'm a mess right now because it wants to keep turning the screen and I want to be able to lock it. Now my question is, where is that screen lock thing? Because it didn't, you guys. It's been a while since I've used this on my phone and now I'm not seeing it. All right, well, I'm going to do my best. I have to turn my head to the side. Okay. So we're starting here. This is the headline. Saved the history of quilts, unknown hero. Now, understanding that this translation it's a Google translation, it is probably not entirely accurate. And also the fact that one-to-one translations don't always work out accurately just because of like idioms and things like that. So, um, I also think that there's definitely mistranslation here. So, Quilting Today, issue 50, and it says September, October 1955. I think it should be 1995, given that this magazine is from 96. So I think that's the first mistranslation from Google. Quilting Today, issue 50, September, October 1995. Recently, research on quilts has become popular, and there is a wealth of material available, including books, magazines, and photographs. However, exhibition flyers and contest application forms are usually discarded once their purpose is served. Yet, for those who will research the quilt revival of the latter half of the 20th century in the future, these too will become valuable resources. In the 1950s and 60s, quilting went out of fashion, and quilters had no choice but to rely on letters from fellow quilters to obtain patterns, new techniques, and information. At the time, pattern collectors who collected patterns by letter, so these are the round robin pattern collectors. They had kind of a little scheme, it was almost like a chain letter, but except that people actually fulfilled it for the most part, I think. So that's I think what they're referring to are these letter writers. Um, oh shoot, I lost my. And quilters had no choice but to rely on letters from fellow quilters to obtain patterns. At the time, pattern collectors who collected patterns by letter were looked down upon as mere hobbyists. But because there's very little quilt related material from the first half of the 20th century today, the letters and patterns collected by such people are a valuable source of information for researchers. Things changed with the emergence of quilt magazines in the 1970s. But these materials, quietly and tirelessly created individually, are the only record of the development of printed quilt patterns and can be called unsung heroes in the history of quilting. We too collect these materials and put them in libraries and quilting facilities. By donating to the Research Center, quilts traditions, so it's another mistranslation, quilt traditions can be preserved. Mary Kay Waldvogel. And it's interesting, it also translated her first name spelled incorrectly. So here it's correct. In this picture, you can see the photo. That's correct. But it's translating this right here is also her name translated. And it's misspelled there. So I don't know if that's a matter of the translation itself or if it's maybe the way her name is spelled is there's not a Japanese character. I don't know. So then underneath here, what this says is flyers and pamphlets related to quilts from the early 20th century. These are rare in libraries, but are valuable historical materials. And then it's written in English, a photograph provided by the Oral Traditions Project, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, their oral traditions project is interesting because they've reprinted some really cool stuff. One of them being this really great WPA, from the 1930s, these quilt patterns that they reprinted, and they're almost like posters. I have a copy of it and it's not complete, I don't think, from when they first issued them, and I just missed out on getting a completely sealed brand new version of it, like new old stock of it, when I visited a museum. I don't know, it's been a couple years ago. I was so upset. I was like, oh, I so wanted those. And they were selling it for like $15. Oh, anyway, I digress. But yeah, so these are the materials that Mary Kay is referring to. Let's see. I think there's things we might recognize. Yeah, that's a romance, something quilts, old-fashioned quilts, yesterday's quilts. Yeah, so all of these cool pieces of ephemera. So I thought that was so fun just to run into, this Mary Kay in here. Now there is also an article written by Barbara Brackman, which is this. We'll get to that on Thursday. I think I was drawn to it at first because obviously, Fisherman Fred, right? And Overalls Bill, Farmer Fred, whatever. I caught that right away as I was flipping through, and then I realized right here is Barb Brackman's name. So we will get to that on Thursday, and also I have the Joyce Gross and Rod Kirikov. So yes, absolutely, I did know this, that in German, Wald is forest and Vogel is bird. And it's ironic because Mary Kay Waldvogel, besides being a quilt historian and quilter, she is an avid bird watcher. So, in fact, she often, when she travels, she travels for quilt related reasons, but when she takes vacation, she vacations in places where she can see really interesting wild birds. So yeah, I don't know. It's ironic. Is it ironic? I don't know. It's kind of like, people that their names somehow relate to their profession. And you always wonder, like, is it just a coincidence, or were they told their whole life, well, your name means this, therefore, so I don't know. Was she told all her life, our last name means forest bird, so you must be, a person who likes birds? I don't know. I've never really asked her, but yeah, I think it's funny. So, okay. Well, we have a few minutes left. Let's see if we can get through some of Patchwork, where I left off. Yes, we can read a couple of little sections here. So, as a reminder, and actually I don't have the chat. Oh, let me pull this up quickly. Avril Colby. Now the question is, where are we at in these pictures now? I've lost track. So, as a reminder, we're reading Patchwork by Avril Colby, published in 1958. And Avril was a British quilt historian, collector, quilter, etc. And let's see. I'm going to leave us on this picture because it's interesting to look at. Even though I know we've already passed this section, but I think these are fun pictures. So in Patchwork, we are now on chapter 8, lining and finishing. And last time we were here, we looked at removing the papers and the lining, which of course is the backing of the quilt. And now we will go to the section on interlining. So Patchwork by Avril Colby, Chapter 8, and we are talking about interlining. The presence of an interlining in a patchwork bed cover transforms a solely decorative coverlet into one which becomes value for its warmth also. The cheapest sort of padding is cast-off woolen clothing. Oh my goodness. In which the seams have been unpicked and pressed flat, but it is also very heavy if more than 2 thicknesses are used. In the past, this kind of padding was used in the poorest households only, and even woolen stockings were put in so that nothing was wasted. The cloth patchwork of South Wales contains this kind of padding. A recently made stuff quilt, and stuff really usually refers to like wool. A recently made stuff quilt in Yorkshire is of new tailor's patterns, interlined with layers of used woolen clothing and backed with strong unbleached calico. It takes a week to dry and needs 2 people to lift it onto the clothesline. Well, if it takes 2 people to lift it, is the thing not dragging the ground? I feel like you need a cast iron clothesline for that, huh? Even when dry and in use, it is heavy enough to discourage easy getting up in the mornings, but it is typical of many hundreds of stuff quilts still in use. Partly worn blankets have been made many a good interlining. In sheep farming districts, some of these have been woven at home and finished up behind the patchwork. Pieces of thin blanket can be joined carefully to avoid thick seams and are found in quilts made from cotton dress prints for the last 100 years. Some of the more recent ones are thinly padded with flannel and flannelette, and in South Wales, those containing lengths of Welsh flannel are put by for half of the year and used as summer quilts only. So I don't know what the difference between flannel, flannelette, and Welsh flannel is, but it would obviously be a much thinner thing. Sheep's wool is probably the earliest kind of padding for traditional quilts in this country, meaning England. It has always been comparatively plentiful in sheep farming districts, and a good deal can be had for the collecting from hedgerows, barbed wire fences, and briar patches. After shearing time, odd clippings and spoiled parts of the fleeces can be taken and washed free from grease and dirt until they are clean enough to be carded and used in patchwork quilts. Nowadays, there seems to be little difficulty in obtaining wool from farms at the current prices. Unwashed and uncarded, the price is about 6 shillings a pound. Supplies of hedgerow wool can be supplemented in this way, and where there are local mills, it is often possible to buy seconds, meaning second quality, by the pound, washed and ready for carding. Clean carded wool can also be bought ready to use, and the amount needed depends on the size of the quilt and the thickness of padding preferred by the maker. The usual amount required for a single bed quilt is from 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 pounds, and for a full-size quilt to fit a double bed, from 2 to 4 pounds would be used. Oh, that makes me wonder, how many pounds is this? I guess it's only a couple pounds. It's not very heavy. Cotton wool and cotton wadding have been used in nearly all North Country quilts since about 1830, but in South Wales, sheep's wool was used for most of the padding. From the evidence in patchwork quilts made there, all sheep's wool needs carefully cleaning for interlining, and if it is not free of the natural oil, small brownish marks will appear on the outer covers of the quilt. So yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen like little oily spots. That could be what that is if it's a quilt that's got wool in it. Ah, Jewett has more intel for us. Okay. While all 3 are soft brushed winter fabrics, the differences lie in their fiber content and texture. Okay, flannel is generally made from wool or wool blends. Flannelette is a 100% cotton imitation of flannel. And Welsh flannel is a specific historical type of flannel originally woven from raw Welsh sheep's wool. Okay, interesting. I think it's interesting because today, when we talk about flannel here, at least in the States, we think of flannel as like flannel shirts, cotton. And if we're going to refer to a flannel like a suiting, like we'll call it wool flannel. Like a fuzzy, if it's made of wool, we specify wool flannel. So that's interesting. I mean, how times change and the terminology kind of flip-flops. Um, hmm. But yeah, I guess I never really, I know I've heard the term flannelette, but I guess I never thought much about it. So flannelette would be what we think of as like flannel plaid shirts, flannelette. Go tell a lumberjack he's wearing flannelette. Oh my goodness, too funny. Okay. Paper has been recommended as a padding material. Oh my goodness, paper. Um, I mean, think about, so here in the States, newspaper had and has been used as the inner lining, as the batting. But it was considered like that's super poverty level kind of stuff. 1930s Depression era. So Caulfield's Dictionary of Needlework states that quilts of paper are much used for charitable purposes, as the material of which they are made is very susceptible to atmospheric influences and promotes warmth by retaining the heat. Instructions then follow for filling a number of chintz bags and setting them together as in patchwork. This procedure may explain the reason why, when Oliver Twist's mother turned in her workhouse bed to catch a glimpse of her newly born child, let me see him and die, we read that the patchwork quilt, which was carelessly flung over the iron bedstead, rustled. Clearly, a charitable quilt has found its way into the workhouse. Interesting. So Quiltish. Hello, Quiltish, by the way. It's been a while. Been lurking. So you guys call it flannelette in Canada. Interesting. So, like, what we think of as flannel is actually flannelette. That is very, very interesting. Who knew? I guess I don't know. I mean, flannel's not necessarily my favorite fiber or my favorite type of fabric, because honestly, it's hot. I Unless it's like freezing cold, I don't want a flannel shirt because inevitably, like, it's just I'm gonna get hot. But yeah, flannel actually does make a kind of a nice lightweight like lining, a batting for quilt. And I'm reaching over here feeling this bizarre Chinese batting. Um, I mean, it's thin, but flannel would be half this thin. So, yeah, I think it's a good choice if you really want to make a very thin, drapey quilt. But this idea of paper, a patchwork quilt, which was carelessly flung over the iron bedstead, rustled. And that means that there was paper in the center of it. Very interesting. I, don't hate me, you guys, but I'm going to stop right there because the next section is quilting. And that, I kind of want to keep that whole section together. So let us stop right there. We've learned a couple of things today. And I've dropped my somewhere. Hold on a minute. To get a new sticky note. Put here, right. Okay. Well, time goes by fast when I'm rattling my trap here. So on Thursday, we will return to Patchwork Quilt Sushin, which is the Japanese magazine. I will make sure we have enough time to get through this section on Patchwork. Trying to quickly run through in my head if we have anything majorly important going on. Week after next. No. It's week Yeah, it's in 2 weeks, I think. Mhm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Our next Stitch and Glitch, Jill has them set like with 2 weeks in between, so it's not week after next, it's the following week. So I don't think we have anything big coming up. It's just business as usual for a couple of Mondays and Thursdays. So you guys have a wonderful week. I hope that the weather is good for everybody. I think I'm in for some awful heat this week, but praise the air conditioner right over there. So you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you on Thursday. And love you guys bunches. Mwah!